Hey, hello, how's it going? Um, got another one of these books to review. This one's a big boy. Thor, Tales of Asgard. Um, it was alright. Written by, uh, Stan Lee, art by Jack Kirby, and eh. As much as this is probably not going to go down well with a lot of people, I'm not a big fan of Stan Lee as an actual writer. I'm not a big fan of his writing, mostly for the fact that I did not grow up with it. And reading it back now, having grown up with, comic books of modern day and the 2000s, going back and reading stuff from the 60s, it borders on becoming a bit painful, really. And with a book that's like that thick, and I know that might sound a bit weird, me saying that's thick, but comparatively to like other books in the collection, this is the thickest one. And in terms of graphic novels, where they're usually like 6 issues and they're kind of like half the size of this, like this is pretty long, and it feels even longer because the writing is so like wordy, and it's not even like the fact that everything that's said needs to be said, because they'll be describing something, but they'll be describing something in like 500 words. It'll be like the dreaded, awe-inspiring, thunderous crack-a-cacoom of Thor's mightiest hammer. When like all you really need is like Thor threw his hammer, or not even that. But it's how books were written back then. The fact in and of itself that the book is long. There's a lot of content in here, and there's a lot of like backstory. This book is essentially the origins of Asgard, and it collects Thor Tales of Asgard issues 1 through 6. What that means, it's the backups of a lot of like Thor issues. So this actually contains like the backups of 45 like different of like 45 issues of Thor, or of like Journey into Mystery, but it's only got 5 pages of each, so they put Thor Tales of Asgard issue 1 through 6, because that's probably how these were collected after the fact, or like it's just easier than saying Journey into Mystery issues like blah 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 to blah blah blah. I don't know, that might have just been a genuine error. But yeah, I don't really know what else to say about this. Jack Kirby's artwork, I can't really judge in this, because what they did do for this is they kind of updated the colouring to make it like look more modern, but it doesn't really work here. It's like it looks very odd to have like this retro art style, but the colouring is like kind of modern. I'm not a fan, really. There is no really main gist of the story. It's just kind of a load of like backup stuff that's kind of like all over the place. So you'll have like in one for like the first chunk of it, it's like the regular tales of Asgard, where it be like chronicling like how Asgard was born, like the like creation of Midgard, which is like Earth, and then it would go to tell like the origins of like the most important members from Asgard, like Balder, Thor himself, Loki, and then later on in the book it would chronicle some like adventures that Thor had. Like there's a team up between Thor and Loki, and they had to team up to sail a barge throughout like the sea to stop Ragnarok. There's like Thor teams up with the Warriors 3 to fight like a dragon called Fafnir. So there's a lot of content in here, but I'm not sure if I enjoyed any of it, really. I don't like saying this because I feel like my opinion on this is very biased. Like at the time, this would have been great, but I'm not reading it at the time, and I'm not reading it from the viewpoint that I can like read this through nostalgia, and that I can use nostalgia as a lens for this. I can't. Another thing, Jack Kirby came up with some great designs. Design of Galactus, the design of most of the Fantastic Four, the design of Thor himself. Pretty good designs, you'd say. He also came up with some that weren't quite as iconic. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in old Marvel that obviously wasn't carried over to like modern day, and isn't gonna be appearing in movies anytime soon. I don't really have a problem with this. Not much of it is like, it's not offensive, it's not going to be offending anyone, it's just not my cup of tea. And that sadly that's what I'm going to be saying for a lot of these early books, because they're not really my cup of tea, really. I'm still going to talk about them, I'm still going to review them, but I find it very difficult to get past the extravagancy of the writing and the way that Stanley writes everything, because it is very extravagant and it is almost cringy to read, and it bears on painful, and I don't want to feel like I'm forcing myself to read a comic book, because it's meant to be escapism, and I'm not feeling like I'm escaping if I'm, not enjoying what I'm using as escapism, if you know what I mean. It's the same as if you go back to play like a video game on like NES or N64, from the lens of having always played on like a PS3 or a PS4, and you go back to that time, and what was a classic back then. Like, I recently went back and played Conker's Bad Fur Day through like the retro, like an R retro collection, and I didn't enjoy it, but I've heard that the game is meant to be like a classic from that time. I didn't enjoy playing it because I grew up with the PS2, PS3 era, and then going back to something that retro, I didn't enjoy the experience because I didn't have, the prior experience, and it wasn't at the time. And it's a time when stuff has come out that's more like revolutionary. I assume it would be the same as going back to watch, say, the Incredible Hulk TV series with Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno, after having watched like Avengers Infinity War. You can't do it because, seeing a man like in makeup as the Hulk versus seeing a CG version of the Hulk, it would be laughable now, and it is laughable now. And it's the same principle and idea with this. At the time, this would have been mind-blowing, but now it's cringy to look back on, and nearly painful to read. And I'm sad to say that, because it is written by an absolute legend, Stan Lee, and the art is by like Jack Kirby and these other founding fathers of like something that shaped my life pretty much. But sadly it's a time in comics that where writing was like this throughout most of it, and where it would have been amazing at the time, and will have gone like throughout history as like a classic. It's something to be looked at as like it's something to be looked at in the history of the character, but not something to be like read and enjoyed. I feel like it's, I don't know. I don't know if I should rate this either, because it's just I don't know if it would be a bias rating or anything, because personally I'd rate this like a 2 out of 10, whereas someone who like, where this isn't bad, it's not offensive and it's not terrible, it's just the way it's written and the writing of the time is very difficult for me to get past. And I'm sorry if that offends anyone, but it is very difficult for me to get past the writing in this. So that's my review of Thor: Tales of Asgard. I have a feeling that the next few videos that I produce of this collection may echo those words a bit, because I'm not a fan of the old stuff, and who knows, I may warm to it eventually, but I doubt it. But until next time, when I'll be having a look at Doctor Strange a separate time, something. I'll be looking at a Doctor Strange book in the next video. But until then, peace. Usual links are in the description. I'll see you guys in the next video.